We all think we know the story of the apple, the serpent, and the garden, right? I mean, it's everywhere. But how well do we really know the details? Today, we're diving straight into the source text to unpack the anatomy of a choice that, according to this narrative, literally changed everything. So let's get into it and break down the expulsion from Eden. So, right out of the gate, the story introduces its agent of chaos. And it's not Adam, it's not Eve, it's the serpent. The text gives us this one absolutely crucial word, subtil, or, cunning. This tells us that the conflict that's about to go down won't be some physical fight, but a war of words, a real battle of wits. Okay, so before we get to that choice, we need to understand the stakes. We're in paradise, but even paradise has rules. Well, in this case, just one rule. And here it is, the rule, laid out in the clearest possible terms. Do not eat from this one tree. And the consequence? Death. I mean, there's no gray area here, no wiggle room whatsoever, which is what makes the serpent's challenge so incredibly bold. And now we get to the conversation that changes it all. This is where psychology and doubt and the art of persuasion really takes center stage. The serpent's opening move here is it's brilliant. It's not an attack, it's a question. And notice how it subtly twists the command. So, God said you can't eat from any tree in the garden? It makes the one simple rule sound like this massive, total deprivation. It's a classic persuasion tactic, right? Frame the boundary as unfair to make crossing it seem totally reasonable. So, after Eve corrects him on the facts, the serpent just drops all the subtlety. He goes from this sneaky insinuation to a direct contradiction. He's not just questioning the rule anymore, he is flat out denying the consequence, challenging the ultimate authority head on. And this is the masterstroke. The serpent doesn't just take away the fear of punishment, he replaces it with the promise of an incredible reward. He completely reframes disobedience. It's not a failure, it's an upgrade, a shortcut to enlightenment and godlike power. Who could say no to that? So, armed with this new, incredibly tempting possibility, Eve looks at the tree again. But this time, she sees it completely differently. And the text gives us this fascinating, almost slow-motion play-by-play of her internal thought process. This is like a perfect anatomy of temptation. The text shows her rationalizing the choice on three distinct levels. First, there's the physical need, right? It's good for food. Then you've got the aesthetic desire. It's pleasant to the eyes. And finally, the intellectual ambition. It's desired to make one wise. The serpent's pitch just hit every single target. And there it is. The choice is made. The act itself is so simple, but the consequences are cosmic. And what's really crucial here is that the transgression is immediately shared. Adam eats, apparently without any protest, making this a joint decision and a collective turning point for everyone. So the serpent was partly right. Their eyes were opened. But what they saw wasn't godlike power. It was their own vulnerability. The very first result of all this new knowledge isn't wisdom, it's shame. And their very first act is to hide. But, they can't hide for long. What comes next is a direct confrontation. It's kind of like a trial, where everyone is called to account for what they did. So when they're confronted, just watch how quickly the blame gets passed around. Adam blames Eve, and kind of implicitly, he blames the one who gave her to him. And then Eve, in turn, blames the serpent. It's just a perfect chain of finger-pointing where absolutely no one takes responsibility. The judgments that follow are incredibly specific and deeply transformative. Each consequence is custom-tailored to the person's role in the whole affair. The serpent is physically altered, forced to crawl on its belly. The woman's fate is tied to pain in childbirth and a whole new dynamic with her husband. And the man's work, which used to be just tending a garden, is now defined by struggle against the very ground he has to till. But the individual curses aren't the final word here. There's one last action taken to make this new harsh reality permanent. And the text gives us the explicit reason for the final expulsion. And it's fascinating. It's not just punishment, it's prevention. The big fear is that humanity, now that they know good and evil, might eat from the tree of life and become immortal, locking them into this broken state forever. The language here is just so blunt, isn't it? So he drove out the man. This isn't a gentle escort out the door. It's a forceful, final eviction from the only world they've ever known. And to make sure this eviction is permanent, the gates are locked in the most dramatic way you can imagine. The way back isn't just closed, it's guarded by celestial beings, cherubims, and a flaming sword. The path to immortality is now officially sealed off. And so this story leaves us right here, outside the gates, looking back. It feels like an ending, but it's also a beginning. And it leaves us with this huge, profound question. Was this a tragedy, the end of perfection? Or was this fall, with all of its pain and struggle, the necessary and maybe even unavoidable birth of humanity as we know it?